My name is Alex Yee, I'm from Brockley and I'm a double Olympic medalist and I'm heading to my second Olympic Games. Oh, my first Olympics. The big memory probably lies in London. I guess that was my first, fond memory of thinking, wow, this is, the biggest show on earth. Well, first of all, obviously it was an awful situation, but I was actually extremely fortunate that the Olympics was postponed a year from 2020 to 2021 because, if it was a year before, I probably wouldn't have been in the conversation for the Olympic Games itself. Yeah, it worked out really well to then be able to go to Tokyo, and even though it wasn't in front of a crowd, and well, it was a small crowd there, whether they're allowed or not, not let the occasion and the feel of the Olympics, kind of get to you, and I was able to go there and just soak it up and just really enjoy myself and get the best out of myself. The boat situation was honestly the most bizarre thing that I've ever experienced in a triathlon race, and it happened at the most professional big race. Which is almost laughable, I guess, in a way, and actually probably took a lot of my nerves away, gave me a lot of perspective about, this is just another race. Yeah, just kind of brought me back and relaxed me a little bit. For the Olympics in Tokyo, I was quite pleased with where I was, and as the race went on and on, I actually started to feel better and better, and as people whittled down, I was getting, obviously focusing on myself and my processes, but starting to realise kind of what was kind of going on and what was unfolding. And yeah, the move that Kristian made was like something I've never experienced, so pretty amazing to see that, and also for me to kind of still be able to pull through and finish second, and be able to celebrate that moment, and it was just surreal. All three of us putting those medals on the table and just seeing the gold medal is there's just something about it which is just so much shinier. And I think for me, obviously, luckily enough to have enough opportunity, I was like, I want to do everything I can to, deliver for the team and try and go one better than I did in the individual, and we were lucky enough to do so. So pretty cool to have my own one and put it on the table.
Yeah.
I was born in New York City, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I live in Boulder now. So I grew up, I don't know if I would say that I grew up in a sports family. I think I grew up in an active family with parents who were not pushy in any way, shape, or form. So I think probably until maybe the age of 15, 16, I would not have described myself as athletic in any capacity. I didn't have any dreams of going to the Olympics or anything like that. It was just kind of like, okay, now I'm learning that I like being active, and it took me further than I expected. I happened to graduate college in May of 2020, and then I was going full time, and the winter, like probably November or December, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of starting to hit numbers I've never hit before. And so then it was kind of like, okay, like I have an opportunity in Yokohama, we'll see what it takes, because worst case is it's an opportunity to learn how to qualify, like go through that process. And then somehow I walked away qualifying. And so then that was the first time that I kind of thought like, oh wow, I have a chance at the Olympics because I was going to the Olympics. Well, so I think I didn't understand fully the breadth and the impact that the Olympics has. And I learned that because in Tokyo, I had the worst race of my whole season. I don't think I finished below 5th place in any other race. I finished 5th place at the end of the year in Abu Dhabi, and every other race I did a lot better. And then I was 16th in the Olympics. And I went home at the end of the year, and all these people who I don't think even knew I raced triathlon, wow, you got like 16th, that's really impressive. And I'm like, no, and there was a lot of other racing the whole year. But so just like realizing the impact that the Olympics has on the world, I think that was something I learned after the Olympics. So I have a new coach this year, and at our start of our time working together, he had me write out a priority list. And so like kind of, what do you want to do this year? I could like immediately, could write down my target, my focus, my priority is Paris. And then couldn't really figure out anything else below that, around that, at the same level of that. Which is kind of scary in a way, because like putting your full focus and putting your full dedication and commitment into one thing, like putting your eggs all in one basket can be dangerous in some ways because it might not work out. But in order to have the best outcome, you have to do that, and you have to have that trust, and you have to have that faith, and you just have to do it. And we'll see what happens on July 31st. But the one thing that one of my swim coaches growing up, he would always tell us was, he's like, you don't get to feel good on the day of the biggest race of your career. He's like, whether that's the Olympics, whether that's an NCAA championships, whether like whatever level that is of the biggest race of your life, he's like, you don't get to feel good. And so like along those lines, it's also like, you don't get optimal conditions, like that's, and you don't get an optimal lead up. Those things are not givens. So I think it's just rolling with the punches and being grateful that you are there and making the most of each opportunity, even if it's not playing to what you'd want it to be.
Hello, fancy seeing you here.
Oh, nice to see you.
Welcome to the vineyard country of New Zealand. The issue with New Zealand is like everything's so close but also so far away, so to get to Napier it's probably just going to be locals out there, but the locals are great here, you know. I went for a run the other day and I think I got stopped twice for a selfie, which was kind of cool. So the banners are up with my face all over them, which is even cooler, so it's a bit surreal. But and then yeah, I guess like heading into Paris now, like the build's been really good. Like I've had some really great results over the last few years and really had no setbacks in the sense of injuries and whatnot, so it's been like super consistent. So I guess like heading into this year is just going to be like really super important to not overdo things, but also like enjoy the process and come into Paris being just like satisfied to go to a second games. It's hard enough to get to one games, but to do two is pretty awesome. Yeah, to be a favourite as well, which is pretty cool too. Yeah, it's definitely I'm in a different position than I was heading into Tokyo. I felt like living in Andorra now, I have my own a place to call home, and I feel a lot more relaxed coming into Europe, as I'm very familiar with certain places now. Where looking back in Tokyo, I was still, you know, only my kind of second, third year in Europe, so I was still really learning how Europe works. So feeling a little bit more homely is super nice, and just looking forward to it. You know, I don't feel like I've got a ton of pressure in some ways. You know, like as a as a bronze medalist, you know, you've obviously got the pressure on personally to perform again. You know, the likes of the other athletes that I race, like Kristian is coming back as a returning medalist, and Alex is, you know, he's been extremely successful over the last few years. So I feel like those guys will have some pressure to perform extremely well, where I don't know, I found myself in a position where I'm just kind of, you know, I was super happy with a bronze medal. The idea was just to get to the Olympics and get on the New Zealand start team, and yeah, came away with a medal. So.
I'm Flora Duffy from Bermuda, and I'm looking to defend my Olympic title at Paris 2024. Well, I did my first triathlon when I was 7 years old, and that race still happens today in Bermuda. I was actually back at it last year, and it's pretty amazing to see. But I don't know initially what drew me to it. I think I was in a swim club. I knew how to swim. I loved running. I knew how to ride a bike. And I don't know, you're in Bermuda. It's this beautiful island with warm water and great climate to do a triathlon. So I did, and I just absolutely loved it because I guess it combined my three favorite sports. I am a naturally very competitive person and have been since a very young age. I mean, I can remember myself saying at a pretty young age that, like, I want to be a world champion and Olympic medalist. And like, I guess people probably were a bit taken back from that, for like a young girl from a tiny island having these, just like, that's what I want to do. And then like years later, I went and achieved that. I had my first experience in Beijing in 2008. I think I was 19 or 20, and it was definitely a very, tough experience for me. I mean, on one hand, it was amazing to go to an Olympics, but on the other hand, I like completely wasn't prepared. I kind of burst onto the scene a year before, had some success, and then kind of was going through a pretty rough time with triathlon as I went into the Beijing Olympics, and I was just completely over my head and ended up DNFing, and it was a pretty tough experience for me being 20 years old, and I didn't quite have the support around me at the time to kind of handle and navigate those emotions, so ended up taking a 2-year break from the sport after that. But I think that's what happens when you go to these major events, right? You learn a lot about yourself. Yeah, so Rio was definitely a great learning experience for me, to be sort of in that like group of women that have the potential to win a medal. I was definitely more of like the dark horse that could shake up the race and kind of steal the race away from the runners, because at the time my strength was really swim bike, and I was ranked #1 in the world going into it. And so for me, and all of a sudden 6 weeks out from the games, I was suddenly, boom, someone being talked about to win a medal. So I went through that whole experience, and then going into Tokyo, I had 5 years because it got postponed, but it was only about 10 days out from the race, and I was finishing up my final bit of training, and everything started clicking, and I just realized, wow, like everything's come together. Something might happen in the race that I can't control, but I have the ability to do it. And so that was like the moment I realized, okay, perhaps I can be Bermuda's first Olympic gold medalist, but really, you don't believe it until you cross that line. Because I mean, even in the race, it's just like, I led the entire run, and that last 5Ks I ran by myself, and I've led a lot of races and won a lot of races, but that was the only time I was like, really like, wow, Flora, like you're leading the Olympics, like don't mess this up, like keep yourself together. And so it's not until you cross that line and you're like, wow, I did it. Crazy what happens after. Like, you don't think about it because all you think about is like performing in the race, executing, crossing that line, and then the after, it was like my life like exploded. I think obviously because I was the first Olympic gold medalist from Bermuda, so that really took off, and then everyone back home really celebrated it. I mean, I had a holiday, a parade, It was just like this week-long celebration in Bermuda, and then of course you get like nice commemorative products from your sponsors, gold shoes, a nice special Olympic gold bike, and yeah, it's just kind of amazing and but very overwhelming because you're still trying to process this like massive life event, and then all of this stuff is just coming at you, and yeah, but it's really special.
Hi, I'm Kristian Blummenfelt from Bergen, Norway, and I'm looking forward to try to defend my title from Tokyo in Paris in 2024. The strange thing with an Olympics and standing on the start line or the pontoon there is that you are racing against the same guys that you're racing against for the last 4 years, basically, and they are the same athletes you're facing against either in French Grand Prix races, World Cups, or World Series races. But you feel it's a different atmosphere. It's more on the line. It's even from the sort of the technical officials, like you almost see like they are more nervous as well, because it's the biggest stage of the sport, and you feel that when you're there. In Tokyo, I felt during the warm-up that I wasn't extremely nervous. I was more like feeling really pleased with being in the fitness I were, because I knew that I was in the swim, bike and run fitness that I thought I needed to be in order to win the race. I've already proven earlier on that year that I could win races against the best guys. I think my move in Tokyo was more the fact that I know the guys I'm racing against. Like, I know that Alexi is super fast in a sprint finish, especially, and I know that I'm not that super fast over the last 100 meters on the blue carpet. So in order for me to have a chance, I have to start early. Yeah, I didn't want it to come down to a fresh 100-meter sprint finish. Almost took me with a little bit of surprise, because I was prepared to sort of ramp up the pace and ramp up the pace and ramp up the pace. So then when I saw that the elastic band was snapping, then I knew that from there on and all the way back to the finish line, I had to just dig as deep as I've never done before. Yeah, so going into Paris now as a defending Olympic champion, of course I do want to win another gold medal, and that's a goal, and that's really what we are working towards. But I feel more relaxed this time around than what I did going into Tokyo. I felt that Tokyo was like a 10-year project going into one race, and it was all building towards that, while now it's been so much happening since Tokyo, with a lot of different projects. Yeah, like moving from short to long distance and then coming back again. So it hasn't really been a moment to have a breath and just like settling down. But like I would say the hunger is the same. And funny as it is, I feel I'm not really the biggest favorite going into Paris, even though in my head I'm still among the big favorites. I think I've had Alexi and Hayden Wilde performing really well since Tokyo, and showing that they can run super fast. And you have the French guys who has been really performing well over the past couple of years. Like, they've had the world champion Leo Berger and Dorian Coninx, and you have Vince as well in the mix. Yeah, it's a lot of guys who can fight for that medal.
Alexa, stop. I'm obviously gonna win.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em a shot, boy, I'm long.
Yeah, the Olympics for me, the first time I really remember it. We were actually on holiday in St Ives, but the point that I remember very vividly was Kelly Holmes winning the 800, I think she won, and her crossing the finish line just in disbelief. And from then, I just remember seeing the emotions on her face and how much it meant to her. Seeing that, I was like, I want that. I want that feeling, because that feeling looks like it will be incredible.
Celebrating Taylor Spivey, Emma Lombardi, and Georgia Taylor Brown. Congratulations.
Yeah, the experience in Tokyo, the fact that when it was announced that Japan would be holding it, and Japan is such a supportive nation of everyone, and you were like, they're going to put on a show, like it's going to be insane. And then obviously COVID hit. It's hard to, because obviously I don't know any different in terms of an Olympic Games. Like that was my first Olympics, so for me that's kind of the norm now, that like it was just dead and no one's around. And in a way maybe it was nice because it was peaceful, and you have to kind of prepare for that as well, because it will be a lot louder and there's a lot of noise around, and you need to find your own little bubble, because that's quite important. But I also think during the race it will really push you on to have people there and pushing you through. I think everything before the race is a bit blurry because you're so focused on the race, and you don't take everything in, because you just like, it's like tunnel vision. So then after the race, I just remember that night and just like looking at my medals, and I was like, this is just weird, like I've dreamt about this my entire life.
One, two, one, two. What's your name? Hat Mauser.
What sport do you do?
Soccer. I remember sitting back and watching Rio in 2016 and having a conversation with Dan Atkins, my coach, and saying that, you know, this one is a little bit early for me, but you know, focusing on Tokyo and realising that that could be a real possibility. And then the next year in 2017, I was, fortunate enough to race a variety of races, you know, including the WTCS series that was known back then, and Super League and all those in between, and getting that first exposure as a junior to that elite competition, and felt quite comfortable, and it was quite a natural progression for me, and just fell in love with it. I was super fortunate to be selected for my first Olympics in Tokyo. It was a bit of a stressful process being locked down in Australia, and learnt a lot about the process and what it means to be an Olympian. And although it was like a fly-in, fly-out situation with the Games experience, it was definitely something that I treasure when I look back on it, despite my individual performances. I mean, naturally you put a lot of pressure on yourself because you put in all the work and all these hours behind the scenes, and you don't want to have that come to nothing. So, and at the end of the day, the Olympics only come around every 4 years, and people say it's just another race, but it is the biggest stage of them all. So I think without having that bit of pressure and those nerves and anxiety leading into it, you wouldn't want it enough. So I think it's only natural to have those feelings, and as long as you keep them in check and keep all the external noise to a minimum, then put pressure on yourself, you'll get the job done, I think.
My name is Gwen Jorgensen, 2016 Rio Olympic champion, and I'm on a mission to qualify for the Paris 24 Olympics. I qualified for the Olympics in 2012, I'd say, in a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. I think, a race or two before that, I had been lapped out in my first WTCS. And so, I went to London. There was a test event in London on the same course. And I had, a really strong run at the time. And I was able to run up into second place, which was something that was pretty incredible at the time. My parents were there. That's a big memory I have of that event, is just having my parents there supporting me and watching me and cheering me on. Another big memory is Laura Bennett. I remember when I passed her, she gave me a little tap and said, "Go get 'em, girl." I retired from triathlon after winning gold in Rio, and I wanted to make it on the running circuit. I found that when I was running triathlon, my running kept getting better and better and better. And I thought, wow, what would happen if I just solely focused on running? So I focused on running, and I had quite a few injuries. I wanted to do the marathon, and that I was unable to do because I wasn't able to run the mileage due to injuries. So I ended up going to the Olympic trials in the 5K and the 10K, and I made the finals in the 5K, but was a far way, I'd say, from making the team. My decision to switch back to triathlon for Paris, it started when I was pregnant with George, and I wasn't really comfortable running. And so I started biking a little bit more, and I always have enjoyed biking, but one of the major reasons I stopped triathlon was because I didn't enjoy the swimming. And when I was pregnant with George, I was like, I'm just going to start swimming again. And I started swimming, and I was like, oh, I'm having a ton of fun. I had this big belly, and I was swimming, and I felt like, wow, I enjoy swimming. Maybe this triathlon thing, I could try it again.
I'm Miguel Hidalgo, current Pan American Games champion from Brazil, preparing for my first Olympic Games in Paris. Yeah, in Tokyo, I watched the race like 100 times and having different views, because when I watched the race for the first time, the guys racing were kind of my biggest idols, and now I see them as possible medal contenders. I will try to prepare the best way possible, and as if Paris is the first and only Olympics. There's a lot of details that makes an Olympic champion, but in the end, it's all about who wants the most. If you want the most, you are the one that are going to chase every margin you can improve. If I go to bed early, maybe I can improve 2-3 seconds in 6 months, and all the little details that makes the difference. And like I said, it takes something special to win. Honestly, I was too young to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. Me, together with my coach, we always think about long-term goals, and my training since I started is based on how can I be the best possible athlete at my peak. We didn't train to be a junior world champion, to be the best junior or the best U23 in the world, and we always had this in mind. I want to be the best possible athlete in my peak, and the time is coming, and I think it was more a natural evolution, increasing especially the running volume over the years, and that's what makes the biggest difference in the end. First I developed my swim and bike, and actually the most important thing to win is the run. So naturally increasing the volume, I started improving and starting to get closer and closer to where I want to be.
When I was very, very young, I watched the Olympics always on the TV. As soon as I saw all the athletes at the Olympics, I was like, I want to be like them. I want to be a star, a superstar. For me, that was everything I wanted from this moment on. I was very late qualified for Rio, and I really want to race at the Olympics, of course, but yeah, I wasn't expecting too much. And yeah, for Tokyo it was also different because yeah, I was qualified quite early in the test event as well, but yeah, then it got postponed, and then there was COVID, and yeah, we had another year to prepare, so it was also different. And now we only have 3 years to prepare from Tokyo to Paris, and yeah, it's always a little bit a different journey. When my coach asked me, do you want to set the focus this year on qualifying for the Olympics, or, I mean, I was still under 23 in my first under 23 year. So I was like, yeah, I want to take the chance. I really want to go to the Olympics. So that was, I think, the beginning of me realizing, okay, I can make it.
My name is Dorian Coninx, 2023 World Champion, and heading to my third Olympics in Paris 2024. Rio was my first Olympic Games. I was 22 at the time, I think. It doesn't went well. It was like a disaster. I think I had shown some really good results at the time, but it was like really up and down, and I had a lot of weakness that I had not worked on yet. So yeah, I think that's why it was that bad, but it helped me to improve a lot, to ask about a lot of questions about myself, and at the end it was a really good experience. In Tokyo, the experience was really different. It was 5 years later, and I think I was already a different athlete. But the results was like not exactly what I wanted yet. So hopefully in Paris it will be even better. I think Paris 2024 will be one of the biggest races of my career because I'm at the best of my level right now, so I have hopes to do well, to do a medal, and it's also in France, so it's a great opportunity to race Olympics at home for an athlete.